This is Don Mazzella again with Small Business Digest. People say, well, can I be an entrepreneur? Well, anybody can be an entrepreneur. It just takes a lot of guts. And um, I like to think about more guts. I think of dedication. We have with us Marlo Nicole. She talks about it even more, and I'm sure glad she's on the program. Marlo, welcome.
Thank you very much. How are
Okay,
you today?
well, I'm better now that you're on the program because you're going to help me explain to our audience some of the issues. Because what I found fascinating about when someone brought you to our attention was that you say anybody can do it, no matter where you are economically. So uh,
Absolutely.
I'd like to explore that a little bit. But first, tell us a little bit about your personal background, a little bit about your company, and finally a website.
Okay. Well, my name is Marlo Nicole, and a little bit about my background. I've got a history of law enforcement, public policy, communications. I've been more in the professional industry for most of my adult life. And what I realized is that I really enjoy the finer things in life, and that working a 9 to 5 and working for someone else was not really going to afford me the opportunity to kind of have the lifestyle that I wanted to have. So what I what I decided to do was to invest in myself. And so when you say that I said anybody can do it, I completely believe that because I was that person. I was the person that had the 9 to 5 that wasn't sure how I was going to be able to, again, live this type of lifestyle that I wanted. And I was able to find a way. And those ways included everything from, starting to talk to my family and friends. And the most important thing I believe that I did to show them that I was ready and capable to be entrusted with their time, their money, is to do the research. And I think a lot of people have all of these great ideas, but they don't really take the time to get down into the trenches, so to speak, of finding out what that business is about and what it really takes to not just run that business, but the financial investment that's involved. Sometimes it's significant, and other times it doesn't have to be. So that's where I started.
Okay. Well, let's start. What are you doing right now? What business are you in right now?
So right now I have a bar and lounge in Culver City, California. It's called Stage 21, and it's the most recent child that I've birthed. And it's a lot of fun. I have experience in the restaurant industry before, so I was aware of the challenges and the monetary investment that it required and the time that needed to be put into operating that business. And I was able to pull it together, and with the help and support of friends and family, even throughout this pandemic, we've been pretty successful. We've only been open a month, and I would say we've exceeded my expectations.
Okay. Well, what's the website for this bar and restaurant?
We're at stage 21 barnlounge.com.
Okay.
We're also on social media at stage 21 Culver City.
Okay. Well, I'm going to go back up and ask you something. You said earlier, you invest in yourself. What do you mean by that?
Well, we tend to make money, and we like to go shopping. We like to travel. We like to spend money. Everyone that I know makes money and we tend to spend it. Well, one of the things that I realized is, again, in order to get other people to want to invest in me, I needed to invest in myself. So, for example, I wouldn't come to you and say, hey, I've got this great idea of a business that I would like to start. It's going to cost me $20,000. Can you help me? I would come to you and say, hey, I've got this great idea that I want to do. It's going to cost about $20,000. I've already got 10 of it, but I'm looking for a little bit, more financial backing so that I can operate. I would show you a nice financial plan that I've created that will show you what your investment's going to do and when you should get it back and how we're going to make sure that that happens. I would show you all the research that I've done, so much to the point where you're going to look at that and say, wow, this might be better than the stock market. This looks like something that I might want to invest or look into or be a part of. And that's what I mean by investing in yourself. If people don't take the time to do the hard work in the beginning, which is to me investing in yourself, it's hard to expect other people to believe in your vision.
Well, that's certainly sound advice. But you start out with friends and family, but oftentimes, as you know, that leads to lost friends and angry family. How do
I
you
agree.
how do you make it uh, so you minimize that risk?
So one of the things, and I'll say maybe I got this from my law enforcement background. I believe integrity is by far the most important thing. You can't just talk a good game. You've got to actually do what you say you're going to do. And if you have a proven track record, there's no reason that you should have lost friends or lost family. Yes, things happen, but when you communicate honestly and you actually do your homework and you actually do exactly what you say you're going to do and provide people with an opportunity to see your books or your receipts or anything that you've gotten someone involved in, especially with their money, they should have an open door to being able to be involved or to at least have an understanding of the process. I think that's where a lot of people go wrong is they will accept someone's money but not accept that that money kind of makes them a partner of yours, and as a partner they should have the right to know about what's going on, if something's not going right, if something's going well, if you can pay them back sooner. Those are the type of things that I believe are necessary in order to keep those type of relationships, because friends and family are or should be the people that trust you first. If your friends and family can't trust you to invest in you and your vision, who else can you really trust?
Well, that's very true, but maybe that also gives them the license to interfere in how you run your bar and lounge or any of your businesses. How do you balance the two?
Well, I balance the two by making a clear distinction between a financial investment and an actual business partner. While they may have access to books and financial records and those type of other things that I assured them that I would disclose, they're not a part in the operation of the business because that's what they've trusted me to do. Most people don't want to be involved in the operation. They want to be able to say that they've made, some money off of an investment. They want to be able to say that they're a part of something, which, in my opinion, especially for something like a bar and lounge, it allows people to help you with marketing. Now, in my situation, I've done enough investing in myself to where this particular time I did not need anyone else's financial backing. But in other ventures in the past, that had been the case, and it was significantly important. And then again, once you start to do this over time and you've got a proven track record, you don't have to ask people. People ask you. I have people actually asking me, what are you into now? What's your next venture? I want to be a part of it. Can you let me know what you're going to do? So it gets easier if you do what you say you're going to do.
Well, and that goes without saying, but it's doing that first and that second venture that really separates the men from the boys or the girls from the women. Uh,
Yes. It's all about trust.
yes, and it's such a rare commodity in today's world. Um,
Yes.
how do you build up trust?
Actions. There's a lot of people that talk. I am known, especially amongst my family and friends, that if I'm talking about it, it's gonna happen. I don't talk a lot about anything that I'm not going to do, haven't started doing, or haven't finished doing. So I think your reputation sometimes precedes you, and I think that's something that you can't run from, whether it's good or bad.
You got some sass.
I guess that's good.
Well, believe it or not, I worked for Essence Magazine for 4 years. So,
Nice.
um, so, well, last week I was on a national program with a woman educator who said that her book is we got to start teaching boys different than we teach girls because she feels that she's black woman educator. She feels that boys are not being shortchanged because of the way we teach younger people. Yet you're an example, and she points out that black women today seem to be much more assertive in what they're doing and how they're doing it. What do you say to that?
Um, Unfortunately, I agree. And what I say to that, Don, is a lot of it comes from parenting and background, and it's historic, whether we believe it or not. And where I believe my strength, or my sass, as you called it, comes from, or my business acumen, or whatever you want to call it, it comes from having been raised by a single mother that has taught me that I can't really rely on anyone else. Now, previously, there were two family households historically. You were raised by your mother and your father, and you got the best of both worlds. You learned how there were two people in one dynamic that relied on each other, that helped each other. And when you're not raised in that environment, you tend to see things differently. And I don't think it makes people good or bad. I think it really makes you want to work hard, and you kind of develop this complex of, if I don't do it, it won't get done, because there is no fallback. There is no other person to pick up the slack, so to speak. So I see that more so with women, because typically, especially when you're raised by a single mother, she kind of wants you to be what she is, or what she never was, or better than she ever was. So you kind of grow up with that in the background. Whereas a male, even if he's raised by a single mother, they always say a woman can't teach a man how to be a man. Well, that's true, but it's not the same, because the dynamic between mother and son and mother and daughter are just different. You always have mama's boy and, daddy's girl for whatever reason. So I really think that has a lot to do with it. And again, it's not really something that we're taught. It's an upbringing, at least in the Black community, from what I've seen.
By the way, I hope you take sass as a compliment.
I'll take it. I didn't take it negatively at all.
Oh, okay. No, I meant it because you're reaching out there. Um, and I normally don't on my programs deal with the black-white issue, but uh,
Mhm.
but uh, but it came up with the educator, and comes up comes up with you because it's obvious you're really standing on your own 2 feet and making something. But now let me turn it around. what do you do to help others who are thinking of starting out, etc.? What do you tell them?
So, Don, I'm glad you asked that question. I actually have another website. It's my personal website. It's at marlonicole.com, marlorichardson.com. And I have a platform called Business Bullish. So, one of the other things, or one of the many things that I did when I say invest in yourself, was I invested in the stock market. I invested in cryptocurrency. I made these other investments to help generate income so that I can afford to be an entrepreneur and do some of the other type of brick and mortar type investments that I've done. And I typically have people that I talk to where I have a podcast and I like to interview business owners and for them to tell what I call the good, bad, and the ugly. We've all made mistakes. None of us are perfect. And even with everything that I told you previously, those same mistakes that I've made, I'm able to talk to someone else about them so that they don't have to make those same mistakes. And so I do that through this platform because I'm constantly asked those type of questions. How did you do this? Where should I go to start that? And so I just like to provide a platform where people kind of get information, not just from me, but from other entrepreneurs, other business owners as to how they got started, why they got started, and to just really, the foundation is to give them confidence and to get them to start somewhere. So if starting is, you have a 9 to 5 job and they have a deferred compensation program or a 401k, that's a great way to start investing in yourself. There's really not a whole lot I could say about a savings account other than, you may as well put your money in underneath the mattress. So I just try to talk to people about those type of things where you can actually generate some sort of a savings so that you can afford to make some of those investments in yourself.
Can you say the site again and to spell it out for our audience?
Absolutely. marlonicole.com. Or on social media, it's under Business Bullish, BUSINESS
Hmm. And that one I'm definitely going to go to. Um, but now, uh, in the time we have left, I'm going to turn it over. What would you like to talk about? I've been asking you questions. What would you like to talk about?
You brought up the race issue, so I'm going to talk about that a little bit, and not so much as an issue of race, but just as an issue of independence and wanting to see more people of color start businesses and have more of a business mindset. And I'm going to say this because I've been in political settings, I've been in politics, I have been in government agencies, I've supervised thousands of people. And what I have learned is based on my own personal experience, a lot of people that are, Black or African American, they have an employee mindset. And I would like to see how we can get people to have more of an employer mindset. That doesn't mean that everybody has to be a business owner, doesn't mean everybody has to own a business. But when it comes to promotions, when it comes to um, putting people of color in better positions, we've got to start thinking like a supervisor, a boss, a manager, an employer. And from what I've seen, a lot of times that's not the case, and it's not, take it even a little step further. It's not just people of color, it's more generational. It's younger people, and it's that entitlement. It's the, I don't like that job, so I'm not going. People are afraid of working hard. People are looking for something easy, and that's just not reality. I've had people, take good jobs and leave and then end up on unemployment because they could not deal with the manager. I've had two employees recently, two different businesses that didn't like the manager. So they want to be scheduled when the manager is not there. You know, 20 years ago, you could probably know this. I know this as an employee. You don't get to pick and choose who your supervisor is, right? Sometimes you don't get to pick and choose what your shift is. And I think we need to get back to, again, trying to get people to think like a supervisor or an owner and understand that you're not going to like every person you work with. You're not going to like every person you work for. You may not like your pay right now, but if you're not willing to do the work, if you're not willing to make the sacrifices, I mean, what legs do you really have to stand on? Where's your argument, right? You don't get promoted for calling off sick all the time if you're not legitimately sick. You don't get promoted for not being reliable. You don't get promoted for doing what you want to do and not what needs to be done. So those are some of the things from a business perspective that I always like to talk about, because people do it and they don't realize what they're doing and how that impacts them and their career or their business. Again, your reputation precedes you.
I won't argue with it, whether you're white, black, or red. It's the same. It's the same all over.
Right.
But well, you're on a roll, so please continue. You've got some more time, and you have the audience.
Let's see, what else could I
Well,
disclose here?
yeah. Well, I'll ask a different question. You're in a
Okay.
very tough business, which is bar and lounge. How do you
Yes.
maintain your femininity at the same time your leadership?
So I have a big brother, and he's a very big brother, and I've put him in a nice position of being in charge, so to speak. So it's kind of a unique dynamic because I believe everyone knows where the message comes from, but I let him deliver it sometimes, depending on what the message is. When we have issues with customers, he's typically the messenger. He knows my expectations. He knows how I feel about certain behaviors, and he knows my tolerance level. And if anything kind of goes outside of that, he's really good at nipping it in the bud before it gets, too far gone. In terms of business, it's a very unique time with it being, fairly after and still into the pandemic. There is a mix of people. You have people that were never really on board with thinking that the pandemic was real to begin with. And then you have the other people that are not yet ready to come outside because the pandemic and the Delta variant is really real to them. And then you have those people that are in the middle that say, you know what, I'm vaccinated or not, and life is too short. I'm going to die of something. I'm going to protect myself, and I'm going to get out of this house. So with all of those, elements, I think we kind of cater to each and every one of them. I like to see my bartenders and my servers always in their mask, but they don't necessarily have to require that patrons, have their mask, especially if, they're separated from other people, meaning, socially distanced. So people like to have a good time. And that's kind of the atmosphere that we provide: sports, entertainment, alcohol. We like to see people consume responsibly, but at the end of the day, we all like to have a good time, and that's kind of what we're providing right now.
Your website for your bar and lounge and your website for your entrepreneur.
Yes. My website for the bar and lounge is stage21barandlounge.com. And Marlo Nicole as the entrepreneur, and where you can see some of my posts, blogs, advice, podcasts would be marlonicole.com. And on social media is Business Bullish, Business Bullish.
That's really interesting. One last thought you want to say to the audience?
I just want to say, the confidence is in you. You just got to dig in there and pull it out sometimes. And it's okay if friends and family don't see your vision right away. You can always do it the hard way, meaning investing in yourself, having good credit. Maybe you get a loan, maybe you use credit cards. I've seen people do it every way possible. The point is, it can be done. And believe me, if you do what you say you're going to do, whether anybody believed in you or not, once you do that, people will be trying to be a part of your next venture. So it's okay. You can't take it personally. You just got to go with the flow.
Hmm. Well, on that note, Marlo, we're going to say thank you for a really different interview for us, but one we all, I think, enjoyed. Thank you.
Thank you very much.